Welcome to Face2Face. This is a show about change and what's next. It's a show that asks questions and peels back the layers of our average everyday experience and goes beyond scratching the surface. We interview people doing incredible things who are making a difference around the globe. Join me as we listen in and get one step closer to understanding that big ideas shared create collaboration. Collaboration can inspire community, and communities create social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face2Face. So my next interview is with Inna Modja, and we talk about a new film, a brilliant new film about climate change, about sharing, about responsibility. It's about community. It's about people, but it's a musical journey. It's about melody and it's about hope. I mean, have I got you yet? Are you interested? It's called The Great Green Wall, and we just had a marvelous conversation. And I'm just always astounded when I get to the end of these conversations, and I think, wow, we need to book part two. And Inna and I covered a lot of ground, and she covered a lot of ground in this film. So basically, she takes a trip from West Africa all the way to East Africa through the Sahel region, and talks about this wall that is going to unite, this green wall that's going to unite. You've got to check this out. You've got to see the film. You've got to check out the website and check out Inna's music as well. I mean, it's just even thinking about it right now, I'm getting a few goosebumps. There's beautiful moments. There's performance. There's comedy. There's so many insights in this film, and I really do hope you're going to listen in on the conversation. We talk about West African hip hop, and we talk about melodies of hope and why it's so important about staying connected. And in fact, we don't need to stay connected. We already are connected. And we talk about how we need to change the narrative and about big, bold, ambitious ideas. And Inna talks about having faith in people. We talk about this sense of urgency. I mean, this wall is about 8,000 kilometers long, and it's a metaphor, but it's actually also a real thing. It's alive. It's feeding into the economy. It's feeding into people's lives, and it's a reminder of I guess what really can be, as Inna says early on in the film, we must dare to invest in the future. We talk about heartbeats and why they're important, not only for music but for poets and for artists, and how we can really come together and share with other people's voices and share other people's voices as well, and how this is really about resetting and listening well. We talk about climate refugees, and wow, we covered a whole lot of ground. Inna's wonderful. You're going to love her. You're going to love the film. You're going to love her music as well. So stay tuned, coming right up. And don't forget davidpecklive.com for more information too about my speaking, my writing, and you can get a copy of Real Change is Incremental there. And if you don't spend a whole lot of time there, I totally understand. Don't forget, if you're listening to this through Spotify or iTunes or one of the usual suspects, make sure you check out the website, face2facelive.ca. Sign up for the newsletter, sign up for the podcast. And I've got over 500 interviews there talking to people about things that matter and people that you may not have heard of before, and some you will have heard of for sure, but they're all involved in making the world a better place. And I just love that about this work that I'm doing on Face2Face. If you want to advertise with us, you can certainly do that. Reach out. Like I said, sign up for the newsletter, socially mediate us, and please leave a review for us on iTunes. It's tough to get noticed, and we're doing everything we can, and we're getting over 400,000 unique visits to our website a month, and we're building on that, and we're really excited about it as well. And TIFF is coming up soon, and we've got a whole host of interviews and new guests we're going to be having conversations with as well. And then, of course, don't forget rabble.ca. It's a platform that I also appear on, and a whole host of other journalists and writers and thinkers and podcasters there talking about news for the rest of us. But what's really present and prescient, I guess, is also is this new film, The Great Green Wall, and this conversation, this wonderful, for me, life-changing conversation with Inna Modja coming right up. We are talking about the brilliant new film, The Great Green Wall. Stay tuned. Well, welcome to Face to Face. We are joined by a very special guest here with us today, and I'm disappointed that we're not actually face to face. It would be a bit of a challenge. Inna Modja is here with us today to talk about her new film, The Great Green Wall, and she, I believe, is in Portugal, somewhere on the other side of the world. Inna, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you joining me here on Face to Face.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I have so many questions. I loved this film. It's gorgeous to look at. It's the
Thank you.
cinematography is stunning. You are so talented. It's
Thank
ridiculous.
you.
The music just I'm getting goosebumps. The music just kind of seeps out of the film. It's celebratory. It's got
Thank
a
you so
hope
much.
connected to it that not only comes through in your story, and I do want to get into that as well, but the narrative and the film and just the melody itself, it's a melody of hope sort of built within it. Does that sound about right to you?
Thank you. That is exactly what we wanted to achieve. For me, it was really important to be creating, writing, and composing the music while I was in this journey. I didn't want to go back to Bamako or come back to Europe and create the music. I wanted the music to be so raw and really very connected to the emotions and the words that people have told me during the journey.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is amazing, and I love the fact that there's so many. Well, I guess you could say influential people involved in this, including one of the executive producers for Fernando Meirelles, director of City of God, and
Yes,
Constant Goner, but also so many Africans, just locals, farmers,
yes,
musicians, kids, the girls in northern Nigeria
Nigeria.
singing your music. I mean, it's so what's the word? It's driven by community, and I love that about the film. Hmm, can you talk about that community of hope that drew you into this project?
It was incredible because when I learned about the project, I was so amazed, and but I thought, oh, if they are able to make this project happen, it will be amazing. And a few years later, I was in India. I was on my way from Jaipur to Pushkar to go do some yoga with my husband. I was touring in India, and so I received this email by one of my friends in Fernando Meirelles telling me about the project and what was the stage of giving me some updates on what the Great Green Wall was at, and asked me if I wanted to be part of it. And I immediately set up a phone call the next day,
Mm,
and I agreed to be on board to work on the project and to do this film. And for me, big ideas like this, big, bold, ambitious ideas,
mm,
my faith in these big ideas lies in my faith in people. And when I started traveling in 2017 in the region where I'm from. I was born and raised in Mali, in Bamako. But I wanted to go in different places to really have a sense of what is really happening on the ground. Because as an activist, I like to share what I believe in through my voice, but also being on the ground and really do the
mm,
groundwork. So I started traveling there and meeting the communities, and immediately I believed in the project when I met them because I think that they are so strong and resilient, and I have a lot of admiration for the people that I met through the journey. And so it was a long journey, not always easy, but
no,
with a lot
no.
of hope because it's the issues are real. The issues are really present,
Well, and
but
Nina, the journey itself. I mean, this isn't just a musical journey as a metaphor. This isn't just a journey as some sort of literary device. You went from west to east Africa across the Sahel
yes.
and performed and wrote music and developed relationships, and it's really quite remarkable. It's a road movie, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. For me, the music was secondary. It
Hmm.
was really about meeting the communities and knowing more about their lives and how they are managing to face this climate crisis. that we are facing. The Sahel is facing the Sahara, really growing and growing, and so to me it was more about the community and the climate crisis, and music was a way to tie all these stories together and to be
Mm.
connected with people, because in a lot of places I didn't speak the language, but we have in the Sahel desert blues that is very common. We From a country to another there are differences, but there are a lot of similarities. So that's the reason why I use desert blues, and I didn't bring desert blues to the Sahel. The music was already there.
Right.
So
That's beautiful. Yeah.
for me as a musician, using music to share the softest to the hardest messages is something that I've been doing, and it's something that is you can touch people's heart through music. So the music kind of is intertwining in these stories, and it was one of the things that I thought was amazing is that when women were working, planting, celebrating anything that they were doing on this journey, there was always singing. And
There was always
that is something
right.
I completely relate to and I am comfortable with. And I found it there.
I love to, and help me out here. I can't remember his name, but I think it was one of the members or the leads from, was it Positive Black Soul, who in the film says something to the effect of the music's the best way to spread the message.
Absolutely. It's Didier Awadi, who's a pioneer of African hip hop. And he is something that I look up. He's someone that I look up to, because when he started doing hip hop music, we didn't know about it. We heard
Mm.
some bands from New York, doing hip hop, but I mean, with our issues, with the type of lives that we have in West Africa, he was one of the first to do it. So for me, going to Senegal and meeting with him and doing music with him was something that was really important, because he was used to sharing, the issues that the communities in Senegal were facing since the 90s. Uh, so it was beautiful to meet him, and he's a very knowledgeable person.
Well, he has a great sense of humor too. I'm pretty sure he also said there was, what was it? There was no need for superheroes. I don't need Wakanda, right? I
Yeah.
just let's is it Thomas Sankara is my hero, right? And didn't he also say, sorry about my broken English because I was colonized by the French?
Yes, yes, he was, but he
That's
was very
like,
serious.
he was totally
He
serious, but
seemed
it
like
was like,
humor, but
what a,
he was very serious.
and just so funny, and just encapsulates, isn't that, there's so much wrong based on that statement. Like, not, I don't mean his statement, I
Yes,
mean
yes,
embedded in that statement, the implications of that. He says it with a
absolutely.
smile. And hey, let's just unpack that in a podcast, or an interview. We could have an incredible conversation. But I so appreciated his, his comedic edge. But could Melodies of Hope, could that have been another title for this film?
I think so. I think so. But I think what was really important, it was to show that there is hope,
Hmm.
and because of the hope, we are going to be able to make this happen, to turn this dream into a reality. But there is also issues, and we needed to face the issues and to share them, to also show the world the impact of climate change
Mm.
in a region where uh, people contribute the less to the changing climate. I mean, not just the Sahel region. Africa is the continent that contributes the less to the changing climate, but at the same time, we are facing some of the major consequences. And so it was really important to show also the reason why migration is happening right now, and uh,
Well, it
and
just
and
it just
just
shows it
that
just
we have
shows.
this. We are in this boat together. We are
Mm.
all connected in a way, and something that somebody's going to do in one side of the world can have
Mm.
repercussion on the other side of the world. And it's really important that we know that we are connected. For me, it wasn't to put the blame on anybody.
Right.
It was just to show that we are in this together, and we have to face it together. And these are some of the impacts.
I love how pretty much right out of the gate in the beginning of the film, you talk about daring to invent the future, and how all of this, as you just said so beautifully, is connected, and how we are all in this together. That there is similarity through difference, and I love too how you just mentioned that the music was already there. I mean, for some of us, for me, that's like this metaphor for the solutions are there. Like you said, the great, so many young people, so much opportunity, so many entrepreneurs, right, and artists and creators, and I think that's just it's wonderful, and I see the hope in that as well. And do you feel that? Do you feel to some degree that Africa has been forgotten in a sense? Like the whole notion that you can make such a beautiful film about desertification, right?
Well,
Oh, a word that we don't even, most of us wouldn't even know how to spell. You know what I mean? And you make this gorgeous, stunning film that's, yeah. Anyway, can you tell I like the film, by the way,
well, I think that Africa hasn't been forgotten by Africans. I think that it hasn't been shown correctly for
Right.
most part, because
Misrepresented.
misrepresented, exactly. I mean, Africa has been shown in the same light for a long time, and it's always about the wars. It's always about the issues. It's always about the disease and the troubles that we have. We do have all of that, but we have so much more.
Mm,
And we are more modern than a lot of people would believe, and we have a lot to offer. And I think Africa hasn't have a seat at the table, and now we are just showing our Africa, and I've been talking to a lot of my friends who are Africans, and a lot of times we're like, this is not what we know about this place, and so it's kind of balancing the imagery and the narrative, and showing a bigger picture, like not just focusing on the negatives, but showing the full picture. And for me, it was very important that Jared P. Scott, who's the director, and Fernando Meirelles, who's the executive producer, and I work closely together to show a film that is real. That the film that
mm,
will make sure that what we are seeing is through my eyes as an African woman, because gender plays a big role
right.
in this. Being an African plays a big role in this, and to face these issues, we cannot just wash it through one lens. We have to wider our vision, and to. I think that's the reason why we see also the landscapes, and it was a teamwork. Tim Cragg, who's the director of photography, is an amazing man also, and who is so open minded. So we really worked together to make this film um, the more real possible, close
It
to
really
the
is. It
reality of
really
the communities that we visited.
And isn't all great art collaborative to some degree, right? It's about experience and community and so on. It might be done individually, but we're drawing, I think, from those maybe communities of despair, but in this case, I think, really communities of hope, if that makes sense.
Yes, and the thing is that during this journey, I met with people uh, who were strong, resilient, and with a lot of dignity. That is
Mm,
something that I took away from that journey. Is poverty and these issues didn't take away their dignity,
right,
because they were
right.
so strong and they kept that, and they are fighting to keep that dignity and to have a decent life and stop surviving and start living and thriving. And when we see that the Lake Chad has shrunken by 90% in just 50 years, it's like we really need to wake up. There is this sense of urgency and emergency that things have to change now. And when we see young people saying Barsac or Barça, that
Right,
means
right. Wanted to get
it's
there. Yeah.
either going to Barcelona, or dying
Mm,
trying. It's like this shouldn't be their only opportunity to make a living. We really need to give them new opportunities to be able to make a living and to take care of their families and their communities. And I feel like the strength and the determination that they have, if they have opportunities, they will work through building Africa, building their communities, building their homes. And that is something that through the Great Green Wall, hopefully we can achieve.
what is, I've got so many things I want to ask you about, but what we're not going to have enough time in this interview. But what is the Great Green Wall? It's about 7,000 kilometers long. I know that much. And the phrase "a wall to unite," which is lovely, by the way, kind of contradicts anyone else who's building a wall right now around the world.
Yes.
But what is it really?
So the Great Green Wall is actually it's an image because it's not a wall. It's more like mosaics of
Mm,
green lands, and it goes from Senegal west to Djibouti. It's 8,000 kilometers long, and it started in 2007. So some places have worked really hard, and you can see the trees, and some places where conflicts and other issues are more important, you it's the wall hasn't grown up so much. So
mm,
this is something that we have to work on. It's We are now 10 years away from the completion of the wall, but I like to imagine the idea of wall bringing people together. And
yes.
in the end, when all the trees will be grown and planted and everything, the wall will be completed. This is something that is going to be one of the biggest living structure made by humankind. And so for me, it's the wall is a beautiful imagery and it's something that you can project yourself. But in the reality, it's not just planting trees, it's growing trees, it's taking care of those trees and also having opportunities connected to the Great Green Wall. So making that region of the world that is suffering right now a region that is going to be a partner, because the trees that are going to be planted and growing there are going to be to produce fruits and become partners to the West, like the Arabic gum that is used in sodas. I mean, Coca-Cola can not be done without the Arabic gum. And that is something that it comes from the acacia tree that is planted on the Great Green Wall.
Mm,
And shea butter is very well used in the cosmetic industry. And that is also something shea is planted on the Great Green Wall. So it's not just about planting trees, it's about uh, planting sustainably and making the region a commercial partner also.
yeah,
That
it's
that is one
amazing.
of the way that we can create jobs and also uh, at the same time work against food insecurity.
I love how this metaphor, and I think one of the farmers that you were speaking to talked about the spirit of an African dream and of resilience and resolve, and talked about this, this metaphor. But I love how this metaphor is an actual wall of trees and bushes and greenery and this living entity that's also going to speak into gender issues, education issues, and poverty. And it's really about from the ground. It's about in the ground. It's about
Yes,
planting those seeds you talk about. I love how you talk about at the end of the film. You say, I'm sowing these seeds. Someone else is probably going to harvest them. And but I love how it's just once again a reminder of how deeply connected we all are, but how
absolutely.
all these issues are so intimately linked. How poverty moves us towards climate change in one way or another, how extreme poverty fuels conflict, and so on and so on.
Absolutely. In these regions, in some of the places, people cannot live anymore because the temperatures has risen so high and
Mm.
that is a direct effect of climate change. And 80% of people in rural communities live of some form on or another of farming. And if they are not able to farm, they will have to migrate. And so when we see the migration coming to Europe, people are wondering, but what is happening? Why are all these people migrating or trying to migrate to Europe? And I have to say that when they arrive in Libya or on the boats going to Italy or before it was Spain, these are the people who miraculously achieved to arrive there. Because it's not in the film, but I spent some time in Agadez in Niger in the desert, where I was in a refugee camp. I was giving music classes
Mm.
to young people, and I heard their stories. They were coming from all around Africa and trying to go to Libya, you know, to go through the desert, Libya, and then through the sea to Europe. And we wonder why these people are coming to Europe,
Right.
because where they are from, they cannot live anymore. They cannot farm. They cannot make a living. And so for me, it was important to show in the film that the the kind of way that they are on, the journey that they are on. They don't just show up at the doors of Europe like we want jobs, uh, we want to steal your jobs. You know, a lot of people believe that when they see, we call them migrants. For me, they are climate refugees.
Mm.
And an easy way to dismiss it is that migrants are coming to Europe. Oh la la. No, actually, there is that's a consequence of the climate change. And I mean, when you see the film, you know that these communities are not contributing in any kind of way to climate change, or at least very,
Right.
very little.
Right. Right. Very
And
little. Yeah.
so it's, I hope, hopefully, with this film, it will explain a little bit better their journey, and it will bring more compassion to their stories.
Mm. I found it fascinating. Compassion, yeah, so needed. It seems to me on so many levels. This just the ability to listen to others.
And
You
understanding,
and
if you
understanding.
understand where
Yeah.
people come from and what is the reason and how, I think you
Mm.
can be more open minded and welcoming.
Well, I want to talk about that and how it connects to music in a few minutes. But you said near the end of the film that I think it was after you had told your own story as well and how you became an activist and why you became an activist. But I think you talked briefly and you said something to the effect of, during this journey, I realized that I knew nothing.
Yes.
That's fascinating to me from someone who, born and raised in Mali, knows the continent, traveling, west to east,
Yes.
deeply committed. And I mean, I wonder, Ina, is there a sense in which we all have to come to that realization
I think
that,
so.
no matter how old we are, we
I
really
think
need to
so.
just start over?
I think we have to start with a blank sheet and kind of reevaluate what we know, we really know. Because I
It's
grew
good.
up in Mali and in Ghana. And with my father was working for the Malian embassy, and so we were traveling in Africa a lot. And when I was 22 years old, I wrote a Petit Futé guide. It's like a touristic guide to know the country. So
Mm,
I traveled everywhere in Mali. I listed hotels, restaurants everywhere. So I thought that I really knew the country
right.
and I knew the continent because I'm a proud African. I love Africa and I love different side of Africa, the West, the East, the different cultures and the music and the food and everything. But when I was on this journey, I realized that I know nothing because my life in Bamako, my family comes from the north of Mali, and I thought that I knew the north of Mali, I knew Bamako, and I know Africa. But no, I was actually living a more privileged life because I was able to go to school. My family isn't rich,
Mm,
but I
right.
was able to have education and to be a little bit more protected than in some areas. And I realized, well, I don't know anything. I have to start I have to reset and just listen. And privilege comes into different degrees and different forms.
Absolutely.
And I think now we are in a moment where we really have to listen to each other. We have to listen to people tell their own stories. That's the reason why in this film I didn't want to talk about me.
Right.
The only story that I tell about me is how I became an activist and why I am on this journey. So people can understand why a musician woman is just doing this journey. So that's the reason why I talked about my activism and how going through female genital mutilation as when I was a kid in, in Mali, behind the back of my parents, because my parents didn't agree with that. And that's the reason why my father is also in the film. But beside that, I didn't want to say nothing about me. I wanted to, um, share the voices of the
Right.
communities,
Yeah,
the
it's so
amazing
good.
people that we met. I wanted them to tell their stories, to tell the world how they are overcoming every day, how they are waking up every day ready to fight, because it's a fight. It's just like the climate is so harsh and everything gets so complicated and difficult that the basic thing for us, for them, it's really, really difficult. So I wanted the world to see that they are still standing strong, and that we are creating another lung for the planet. The planet has different lungs, but this
Mm,
can be one also. When we saw the Amazon burning, when we saw Australia burning, everybody was so in shock, and we felt that this is something that we are all concerned. And let's build up new lungs. Let's help to protect the lungs that we have, and because in the end, it's going to benefit everybody. The Great Green Wall is not just for the Sahel or just for Africa. In the end, it's going to be for everybody. And if people are inspired by these amazing people that I met in the communities, they can apply that to their own communities, to their own lives. And as an ambassador of the United Nations for against desertification, I get to see a lot of different projects, all around the world, and young people trying to make a change and creating uh, amazing tools for that. And I'm inspired, and I think that we can all come together. This is something that I don't say lightly. I remember when I started being an activist, when I would say that I want a better world, people would believe, oh, she's so naive.
right.
No,
Right.
actually, I am a strong person and I believe that we can make a change because I believe that we can work through a change. And saying that we're coming together, it is not something that, it has been dismissed so many times when people say we want a better world. But it's true, we want a better world. And we want to fight for it, we want to work for it, we want it to happen. So there are so many things that connects us more than that divides us. So I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
it is something that now we see through thanks to internet. The world is connected, and we
Well,
see that the uproar against injustices are, being global. And I think the climate situation is some one of them.
and I would totally agree. I love everything you said. You reset and listen. It's great. It's it's such a it's a lyric. It's a line from a song, or at least
Yes,
it should
I
be
might
because
actually steal that. Well, no, I said it, so it's not
that's
technically
right.
it's not
It's yours.
stealing.
It's all yours. It's all yours. And I want to, in a few minutes, we're probably going to wrap up. And I got to tell you, and my listeners are smiling and rolling their eyes, but I love conversations like this. We're well into it, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. There's so much to talk about with respect to the film and your
Yes,
music and a better world and I love the hope and I love your commitment and passion.
thank
Can we
you.
talk? Can we talk about music for a second? So, I
Yes,
mean, this is a film about music. It's about composing. It's about community in music. It's about, I guess, healing and hope through music. But you
yes.
talk at one point, I think, about music educating people and
Mhm.
opening minds.
Hmm.
And I'd love, I mean, I've certainly felt that way. I guess a lot of us just listen to music in the background. For me, music has always been, I actually have to focus. So
Yes.
if I'm listening to a lyric, for me, it's like Oscar Wilde reciting a poem,
Yes.
or whoever, I've got to, oh, wow, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, I might be captured by the melody, but I'm also very much captured by that meaningful, thoughtful moment that this poet has I don't know, peeled back a layer for me with
Yes.
respect to, And there's a line in the film. It's the most beautiful line for me in the world. And you say, "I want you to imitate the rhythm of my heart."
Yes.
I'm just throwing this stuff. Can you respond to that? I mean, that's so beautiful. I mean, how does anyone do that? And
Well,
and and you know,
for me, music connects people, and it's we all have the same heartbeat, and we all connect to it. And even as when babies are growing in the womb, and the heartbeat is something that they are connected to, the mother's heartbeat. And when you, I think this is something that links us, and that's exactly what I wanted to recreate through the
mm,
drums. I wanted the drums to be at the exact tempo as an heartbeat, and heartbeat moves when you are calm, relaxed, or when you are emotional, or when you are, your heart beats very fast because you have a high energy and high emotions. I wanted to recreate that because I wanted people listening to it to just, you know, be connected one to another, and that is something that. I think we try to replicate. And rhythms, to me, growing up in Mali, we are surrounded by music all day
mm,
long, in every corner of the streets. It's not a myth. Music is everywhere in Mali. But drums has something. Drum and bass is something that really you can feel in your guts, and I
mm,
feel that the gut feeling is something that uh, is connected to the instincts and to something that
right.
is really raw, and that's what I wanted to bring forward in the music. And
So it's not just the lyric then, it's the music itself, it's the melody, it's the
absolutely,
rhythm, it's the beat that can open up a mind and
absolutely,
and
because
open up a heart.
the beat, for me, I wanted really the heartbeat. I didn't want the beat. I
Right.
wanted the heartbeat.
The
And so with
heartbeat,
the
yeah.
talking drums, we use talking drums because it was in the history of the drums. It was used to, spread messages when there were important messages. The talking drums would just replicate some sounds, and people would know what is happening, if it's something happy or something, more dramatic. And so for me, just the name of it, talking drums. So I wanted the talking drum to replicate the heartbeat. And if somebody feels connected to it, my job was done, because I felt that that was something that was one of the part of that was one of the music that I really felt that I gave my soul in the film, because lyrics make sense. I write them, but it makes sense when someone is connected to it,
Mm,
and sound makes sense when someone is connected to it. And also with the song "Keep on Walking," the song really came alive when I saw the orphan kids in Nigeria singing the
right.
song, and the
Well, I was just
lyrics
that's
made
where I went. Yeah,
made
that's where I
sense.
started to, yeah, make
It made sense when they were singing it. It was like that's their story, and I tried to walk into uh, the shoes of almost everybody that I met. I still have PTSD, some a form of PTSD,
mm,
almost 2 years after
oh,
filming, because
I
I have
believe
a
it.
lot of stories still on my shoulders, and that I carry with me, and that I want to always carry with me.
Well, in a sense, I bet it's going to influence your whatever kind of art you create for the rest of your life. I mean, it's going to impact every song you write in some way going forward, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I've been an activist for 15 years. I started with women and girls' rights and against women abuse and violence, and so it's a lot intertwined with my music and who I am as a person. And I think every experience that I have, uh, I just it just stays with me in some kind of way, and it comes out in the music. But I think that's also, I am lucky to have a voice and to
Mm,
use my voice to share others. And that is something, for me, it's not, as a musician, it's not about the fame, it's about the purpose. And that is my purpose. And I realized that very young, that I wanted to blend both. But in the beginning of my career, I wasn't able to always do it because, when you start as a young woman, people will tend to dismiss what you say. And with my third album, I just came full on, and a lot of people were like, "What is happening?" But as an activist, people who knew my activism knew that I've always been confronting the issues and trying to tackle them,
well, I,
directly.
people may ignore what you say, but there's no way they can dismiss it. That's based on what I've heard today and this
Well,
film, and
it's
I know exactly
we
what
live
you
in a
mean.
society where
Though I
being a
know,
woman is challenging, being a black
absolutely.
woman is challenging, being an African dark-skinned black woman is even more challenging. So, but that doesn't stop me. It's
Yeah, no kidding, no
it
kidding.
made me
Yeah.
stronger actually. So,
Absolutely. Well, I love too how don't you end the film with the song Rise? And
yes,
and I mean there it is. It made you stronger, Yeah, okay, maybe somebody
absolutely.
knocked me down. I stood up and for me that song, I mean not only is it a celebration once again and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, but it's
Thank
about
you.
the courage, passion, commitment. That's
Yeah.
what I took from Rise. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more going on there.
I wish you knew the lyrics in Bambara when I because there's a part in English and there's a part in Bambara. What I'm saying is that when one woman speaks, it's the voice of hundreds of women. And when one
Mm,
woman walks, thousands of her sisters, mothers, and daughters behind her. So when you are standing, you feel the spirit of all these women, and it's empowering because we are all connected and we are all together. And my spirit is full of all the women that I've met and
mm.
that have uh, kind of showed me their strengths. And I think being a woman is challenging, but it's also a beautiful thing. And being, when you have to prove yourself thousand times more just to be able to be heard, it's something that makes you stronger and more vocal, definitely.
Well, what a pleasure getting to meet you today. I thank you so much for your time and for this
Thank
film
you for your
and for
time. Thank you
all
for
the thoughts. And we it's been a delight. And I feel like we've got to. I feel like we should be booking part two of our interview like right now. Like what's going on here, Ina? Like there's so
we
much
can
more to talk
definitely do
about.
that. We can definitely do
Um,
that. It will be a pleasure.
yeah, so we've been talking with Inna Modja here on Face to Face today, and that's Ina is InnaModja.com is your website, and
Yes, yes.
yeah, and people can find out more about you and what you're up to. But also, if you want to find out more about Ina's music, I guess the usual places, Apple and others. You could tell us more, but also the GreatGreenWall.org to find out more
Absolutely.
about the film. And oh, what a pleasure chatting with you today here on Face to Face.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and your sharing your platform to amplify my voice and also the voice of the communities that I've met. And
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
real pleasure.